We welcome to the podcast Pat Nevin. How's it going, Pat?
I'm very good indeed, very good.
Good. So you signed for Chelsea back in 1983 for 95,000 from Clyde. What are your memories of signing for Chelsea?
It was very weird indeed, because I'd turned Chelsea down for a year because I was doing a degree in Glasgow and I was playing part time for Clyde, and Chelsea came in for me and I said no, and nothing against Chelsea. It's just that I didn't know if I wanted to be a professional footballer. I was enjoying my degree, I was enjoying my life in Glasgow, and I just played football for fun, for the joy of it. And then they wanted to come and buy me and change my life and make me move to London. And then a year later, they came back again, Chelsea. And by this time, I'd won Young Player of the Year in Scotland and various things. And I thought, I'll give it a go. I might as well give it a go. And the thing is, I kind of like Chelsea anyway, because I'm an age where I remember the 1970 Cup final. So, my first memory was 67 Celtic, 70 Brazil, and then the Chelsea team beating Leeds United. So my first strip that I'd ever bought was a Chelsea strip, which is amazing for a Celtic supporting kid from the East End of Glasgow. So a bit weird. So when they came in for me, I said no eventually, but when I said yes, it was a big call. And that week that I went down, Charlie Nicholas signed for Arsenal for a big money move. So nobody noticed me coming down to Chelsea. And I loved that because I could just join quietly. And I was very young, and we bought 4 other players at a time. Kerry Dixon, Nigel Spackman, Joe McLaughlin, Eddie Nesvecchi. And from a team that had nearly been relegated to the 3rd tier the season before, that first season we went on and won the league. And from a young kid, I was only 19, who didn't really expect to get a game, or not many games, I managed to get Player of the Year that first season. So it must have went quite well.
Yeah. And what was you doing a degree in? Because you mentioned it.
Yeah, I was doing BA Commerce, so that was economics, accounts, marketing, business studies, all that sort of stuff. And no, they weren't my great interests, but the background I come from, you did a degree that would get you a job, and all the things that were in that degree, wonderfully, I used them all. So I only did 2 years of the 3 years, took a sabbatical to come to Chelsea, and weirdly, everything I studied in that degree really helped me throughout my life. The economics, the accountancy. Certainly, I became an incredibly quick typist when I was there. So, in that I'm now a writer. I learned that when I was 19. I was a very, very quick writer, typist. So, that was a degree. It wasn't my passion or anything. My passion was, the arts more than economics. But I found it interesting enough.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kerry Dixon and that great team, that great Chelsea team. What was it like playing in that era?
Well, we were fortunate that we had a manager, a chap called John Neal, and his attitude was, let's just go and attack everyone. Let's show them we're better than everyone else. Let's be cavalier. And he just brought the right type of people for that attitude. We were a very, very hard-working group. We were lucky that they bought 5 players that summer, and all 5 basically started every game after about 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, I was the last one in because I'd went back up to finish my final year's my final year's exams in the August, so I missed the first game where they won 5-0 against Derby. But within, very, very quickly, we were all playing, and we all played every single week. So that's half a new team. And a half a new team who, when you think about it, Eddie became a Welsh international, I became a Scottish international, Kerry was number 9 for England for a while as well. And Spackman went on to have a great career, phenomenal career, with Liverpool and Rangers, etc. And Joe McLaughlin was a steady player for almost a decade for Chelsea. So in reality, that's not a bad hit rate. That's all right, for the manager. And the man who was actually making the decisions, who was a guy called Ian McNeil, who was the assistant manager, but he also went and scouted the players.
So in that season, you scored 14 goals for Chelsea, becoming a second division champion. You was also voted the Player of the Year, as you mentioned. It couldn't have really gone any better, could it really, Pat?
Yeah, weirdly. And it was last thing I expected. I didn't know what to expect. I was coming down to work hard, enjoy myself, go to see a few gigs because I was into my music. But it was stunning how quickly it went so well. And you've got to thank everyone around you. You know, the players around you, the manager who absolutely believed me. He had this thing where I'm a 19-year-old kid sitting in the corner reading serious Russian and French literature, right? Which wasn't really fitting in very well with the rest of the team. But he would then end, the team talk by saying, before the game, saying, right, okay, give the ball to Pat and you'll win. Like, weird. So he kind of trusted in me, but also trusted in me to take that, to cope with that and react well to that. And that's a big call. And also to trust the players not to be a bit miffed with me because I was obviously teacher's pet with the manager for a while. And on top of that, I think I cannot ignore the one group that helped me more than anyone else, which was the Chelsea fans. The Chelsea fans took to me very, very quickly, to such an extent that, I could have a bad game, a difficult game, and they would still back me the whole time as if to say, no, no, go again, go again, go again. And Chelsea have got a history of that, a fabulous history of that. And, you look, I'm not, may I add, gauging myself with these players, may I add, but, you've Charlie Cook before me, Zola, Eden Hazard, there's just a whole list. And you look at it now, and we've got a few players now that you think, well, he could be the next one. And a certain young Brazilian player may well be the next one. But Chelsea fans love that. They love entertaining, exciting players. And it's a wee bit easier for those sort of players that are creative because Chelsea fans back you. And if you make a mistake, they say, fine, it's okay. We love that. Keep on trying. So thanks to a lot of people, but thanks to Chelsea fans that year.
Yeah, and I think it's also because those type of players don't come around very often.
Yeah, it's kind of, some clubs are known for certain types of players, and you look at certain clubs and it's about a big centre forward or it's about something else, it's about the work rate, and Chelsea are about many, many things, but Chelsea fans at heart have always loved their centre forwards. I mean, Kerry and Drogba and Peter Osgood, they love their centre forwards, when you do it for the team. But clubs have got a DNA, and in that DNA, you find out about the club. And it's funny because Arsenal fans won't be the same, Spurs fans won't be the same, Chelsea fans won't be the same as them. You say that to people that don't love football and they go, yeah, but they're just football fans, they just want to win. But no, there's a culture. There's a culture at a club. There are many cultures at a club. And that was the big thing about us. We had Kerry, and that ran through the culture that Osgood was the one before him, etc. And before that, Jimmy Greaves, etc.
Yeah, fantastic strikers for Chelsea. And what was John Neal like as your manager?
I like a second father, which is a lovely thing. It's an absolutely fabulous thing. He understood me. Most managers and most people in football kind of didn't really get me because I didn't have the same interests. There was no dislike or, no looking down or looking up on anyone. Just, maybe didn't fit in perfectly, but, he understood. And he was, because he knew something that, was not obvious to fans, that I was a fanatically hard worker. I'd be a distance runner as a kid, as a youngster growing up, and well into my teens. So I basically worked my socks off. So sometimes you look at these skillful players and you think, a bit lazy, a bit, a luxury player. He knew I wasn't that, and the fans quite quickly realised I wasn't that as well. But it took the manager to understand it. And let me tell you a wee story about how he helped me once. I came down to Chelsea from Clyde, and I look like a skinny wee runt, right? I'm just tiny and I'm skinny, and everyone thinks I'm the new ball boy or something. And he set up a routine at the end of this pre-season training, which was set a bunch of cones in a row to dribble around these cones and dribble back, but in a kind of race. So he knew, I don't know how he knew, but he knew that I'd been doing this when I was from the age of 5 years old, and I could do that with a ball as quick as I could do it without a ball. And I flew through it and flew back, and I'm basically finished before most of them have got halfway, and you could hear them all going, whoa. And that was him making sure the players knew, by the way, this kid might be able to play a wee bit. And the fact that the manager understood different personalities enough to know what they needed, that's management. That's what good management is. And it doesn't matter if you're a football manager or a business manager. Good management is understanding the talents and abilities of your people that are working under you and getting the best out of them whilst building a team spirit. And John Neal was pretty fantastic at that.
Yeah, he was showing your worth, wasn't he, to the rest of the team?
Yeah. There's another great moment where the ball came up to him in one of the first training sessions. I always get marked. I was a centre forward, and I was like, I'd never played the wing before I came to Chelsea. So the ball came up to me, and I was the big centre back. One or two older people who might be listening might remember Mickey Droy. Just look up a picture of him, okay? Monster, 6'4", big beard, and he's coming to tackle me, and I've thrown the most ridiculous to me. I've went one way, he's went the other way about 5 yards, and I've flown away. And as I went away, I can hear him saying, I'll not use the F word, but I don't think I'm old enough for this game again anymore. And I went, maybe I might be good enough for this, because there was that moment where he put me up against the main centre back, and I'd done him. And by the way, Mickey Droy became a great friend as time went by. So it's about showing people what you're capable of, and that's what football is. So it's one of the great things about football. It's Chelsea or any club. It's a meritocracy. It should be a meritocracy. And see, if you're good enough, people don't care. They just want you to be part of their team, and that's what I felt about my teammates, and hopefully they felt that about me.
Yeah, and you was Player of the Year for Chelsea again in 1987. That must have made you very proud to win it for the second time.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't care. I know that sounds terrible. I was so involved in being a good team player and working hard and being selfless, working for everybody else. And to be honest, I probably left Chelsea and I probably hadn't really realised I'd got to play there twice. I knew I got it once, but it kind of didn't make that big an impact on me. Now I'm massively proud of it, because you look at the long list of Chelsea Player of the Years and the few of us that have won it twice. Let's not talk about the people that have won it 3 times. There's a couple of them. But it's great to be involved with those names. Look at that list of names and you think, hey, my name's in there. That's a brilliant thing. So the pride didn't happen at the time. It happened after my career. I thought, oh God, that's quite good, that. That's all right, that. But at the time, you can't think. If you're a pro, it's not how you think. Everything is about the next game. So if you have a great game, you score a hat-trick and you do well, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter next week. It really doesn't, because it's what you do next. To give you a weird analogy, see last season, or this season, earlier in this season, when Mo Salah started moaning because he wasn't getting a game. And he said the phrase, what I've done for this club, I should be treated better. And every single pro football in the world went, what are you talking about? It's nothing got to do with what you've done for the club. It's what you are doing and what you're going to do. Worry about what you've done for the club after you've retired. The best player on the day, it's a meritocracy. It's vicious. It's competitive. And even though Mo is a great player, was a great player, and he's fantastic and all that, as pros we don't accept that. It's this week.
No, I get that. And Ken Bates was your chairman at Chelsea while you were there. What was he like as chairman?
Bullish, big, brash, tried to bully you a wee bit, wasting his time completely with me. There's a very famous story. There's many stories with Ken and I. We ended up liking each other incredibly well. But he wanted me to sign a new contract my second season. And long and short of it, I had to go into his room and give him my demands. And I said, they're not demands. They're actually my wishes. And I gave him a bit of paper, A4 bit of paper, no agent, right? Things have changed a wee bit, I think, since then. And it was like, I was on 180 quid a week as player of the year. And I wanted 500 quid a week. And I wanted a signing on fee, and I wanted 5 return flights back to Glasgow. And an increase if I got in the Scotland squad. And he picked up the piece of paper after looking at it, didn't even say hello, and threw it in the bin. And walked out his office. Didn't even say hello. And I'm sitting there, 19, 20 years of age, thinking, well, that didn't go very well. The big mistake of not doing was realising I come from Glasgow. And even though I might have some sort of education, I speak with the odd polysyllabic word, I'm also from East End of Glasgow, and I'm also from Easterhouse. And I did what anyone else would do in that situation. I rifled through his drawers in his office. And I got all the contracts, and I did a mean, median and mode average of them all. And I came in the next day and he said, have you thought any more about that? And I went, yeah, I want a 10 or more than I was asking for. And he was just about to go mad. He goes, nobody's on that. And I went, nah, nobody is, but that's the average. And he goes, you can't know the average. And I said, yeah, I can. He goes, how can you know? And I said, because I rifled through your drawers last night and got all the contracts, mate. He just looked at me. I thought he was going to try and hit me. And then he went, brilliant, that's fantastic, well done, it's yours. And kind of from that moment on, Ken and I had this, well, I mean, politically in lots of other ways, with nothing in common whatsoever, but in actual fact, humour and lightheartedness and jousting intellectually, yeah, we got on well. And we met up with him 2 years ago. We had a reunion down at the bridge. For that team, that 83-84 team, and wildly Ken came along, 92, sharp as anything, and I was doing the MC that night. It's a real sadness that I kind of tried to get the club to film that night because it'll never happen again, and it turned out to be a brilliant night. But he gave me his card as I was walking away, and he said, "Look, Pat, we're great friends. We just next time you're passing by, just pop in, right?" And I thought, oh, fine, put my card in my pocket, went away. And as I was getting the tube back up, I was staying in Kensington that night, I had a look at the card to see where his address was. Rue de Saint Margaret, Monaco. Like, the next time you're passing by, like, as if we always pass by Monaco. I actually wasn't Monaco, we were late, but I didn't pop in. But we got in great. And for all the negatives, and there would be negatives about Ken, and if you had got on the wrong side of him, it wasn't a good place to be. And also, I'd wanted to stay at Chelsea, and I had to leave because he wanted the money for me. I was disappointed with that. But in reality, he saved the club. He absolutely saved the club. And anyone who did that to the club I love, well, I'm on their team.
Yeah, he's still fantastic, Ken, isn't he? I interviewed him a couple of years ago, and as you say, still as sharp as anything.
Phenomenal.
So your last game for Chelsea, sorry, I've got to mention this, resulted in our relegation to the second division. That must have been terrible at the time.
Do you know the weird thing is, I didn't really realise it until years afterwards when I look back, because you're so busy involved in every single game. We had a really decent team, and you think, how the hell did we get relegated? Now, I've written a book about it. So 4 years ago, I wrote a book about the first half of my career and the first part of my life, and I went into real detail of what actually happened. But some of it was looking back and trying to work it out. In that last game, we were miles away from the bottom three. We were like 7-8 points clear. We were level in points with two or three other teams. We should never have been relegated. It was as a joke. But for 1 year only, the team that was fourth bottom had to get into these playoffs. And we were in these playoffs. And we won the first one dead easy. We battered Blackburn. And then we had Middlesbrough. And it's just one of those events where we've lost 2-0 up there, I think. But we've down to the bridge and we battered the living daylights out of them. And we had the bar, we had the post, the keeper had Waldies. It was just hell. And it was horrible because I knew it was my last game. I knew I was leaving. I'd already agreed to go to another club. Chelsea were going to get the money for me. I was devastated. But, I was hoping that Ken would change his mind. But clearly they wanted the money. They wanted to change. So I had no option really. I'd run out of contract, so I had to leave. But I remember after the game, we was walking away thinking I'd had 5 years there, and I loved every bit of it. There was periods where the second part of it, the last couple of years, were less good because we had a new manager, the system was different, the style was different. We became a much more, back to front team, which didn't really suit my style very much. But hey, that's the gig, that's the deal. And I would have stayed to try and get us back up. Fortunately, they didn't need me. Chelsea come straight back up the next season, so it was all right. But it was a really horrible, sad day. And of course, I'd agreed to go and sign for Paris Saint-Germain. And just halfway through the summer, I got a call and changed everything in my life going on from then because Everton came in and they ended up to get me instead of Paris Saint-Germain. So you've got me with a wee scouse little. It could have been that. Parisien. Look, I could have been.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. That is, yeah. Because back then, I suppose not many British players would move abroad. Really, back then.
Yeah, the time would have been quite unusual. I mean, but not that unusual because Inter Milan had come in and tried to buy me while I was at Chelsea, and that came quite close, I think. And they had some because AC Milan were the big team back then. Because they had Hullet, Van Basten and Rijkaard. Whereas Inter, well, they had great players as well. Leon Brede was playing for them as well, and Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. And they wanted me to be their third, because you're only allowed 3 foreign nationals at a time. But these things always happen behind the scenes. And when I open up now and talk about it now, here's the shocker for Chelsea fans. After my second year at Chelsea, when I was just about to go back and finish my degree, and I didn't know if I wanted, I mean, I'd had a great time, I'd been really successful, but it's a different attitude towards life. Spurs came in to try and buy me. And Spurs really, really, really pushed to try and get me. And it was the one team I couldn't have gone to was Spurs because I knew the relationship by that time. I didn't know initially. I had no idea initially when I came down from Scotland. But, Chelsea always needed money and Spurs had quite a lot more wealth than Chelsea at the time. And they had a great team, it has to be said, the Hoddles and the Hazards and Ozzy Diaz and Ricky Vieira, so they played very good football. But I just couldn't have done that to Chelsea fans. I just couldn't. They were too good to me.
That would have been
nice.
too much.
I couldn't have done that to them.
Yeah, I can't think. There are a few players, but not many. I think Poirier went to Spurs, didn't he?
Gordon Jury, one of my teammates, went there.
But yeah, I think it's made evidently clear very early on that Chelsea and Spurs is a big rivalry, isn't it?
Well, I didn't know. No one told me the first year I was there because we were in the second tier. And it kind of wasn't mentioned because we were too busy. We hated Sheffield Wednesday at the time because they were our big rivals and we had Man City in our league. Newcastle were in our league with a lot of big, strong teams. So, and also I'm not living the normal footballer life. I'm going to theatre and I'm going to the ballet and I'm going to gigs, So I'm not really reading the paper. I'm not reading the red tops. So I don't know this kind of thing. And that's the thing I have to own up to, that for that first season in a Wednesday night, I've stood on the shelf watching Spurs because I liked the players that were playing. I wasn't supporting them. I was just watching the players, trying to learn from them. But I don't think you get that now with Chelsea current player of the year sitting watching Spurs every Wednesday night.
Certainly not at the moment.
No. Well, not unless you wanted a laugh.
Yeah, I mean, some great times you had at Chelsea. And what was the biggest difference between that era and this era, do you think, playing?
I don't know. Football always changes, and it changes kind of rapidly. Sometimes better, sometimes less so. Some people say, "Oh, the money's the big difference." Yeah, it is big. It didn't bother me. Someone paid me a few quid for kicking a ball around. I'm okay with that. That's cool. I'm fine. The pitch is better now. I love the fact that the stadium's built around it much tighter now. Certainly that was something that was kind of our fans in it could make a noise, but if you'd have put in a more enclosed stadium like the modern one, that'd have been great. The technical side of football is very different now. Obviously, I still work doing analysis and work for the BBC and spent a lot of time in football in my life. I probably slightly prefer the current game, and style-wise, it would suit me slightly better because it is quite technical and it's a kind of skill thing. But on the other hand, I kind of loved the time I had, so I don't sit there going, "Oh, I wish I had this, I wish I had that." I had a great time.
But I
Brilliant
imagine when you
time.
were playing, other players were kicking lumps out of you, weren't they?
I quite liked that. I know that sounds really, really strange, but I liked it because they would sell themselves. So they'd come in and try and crunch it. You know, if you watch Eden Hazard running with the ball, if you're a younger player and you've never seen that type of player, the best thing that could happen to him was somebody lunge at him. Because he'd just go by them. But see if you try and slow him down and corral him into an area, it's kind of a bit harder. You can still beat people, but it's a wee bit harder to do it that way. So certainly in my early part of my career, most of the time in Chelsea, you know, people were lunging in trying to catch you, and they got you now and again, but we had a very different attitude. I certainly did. I mean, I've been brought up in Scotland with the attitude of, if you kick me, I'll try not to fall down, I'll try and stay up. I mean, really? Wow. Youngsters can't believe that I didn't dive once in 850 professional games. Not once. I feel comfortable saying that because I know. Because I did the opposite. I tried to stay up. Never feigned injury. Pretended I was less hurt than I actually was, which was quite common back then. So that side of it is massively, massively different. But I love the psychological warfare. So a big monster would come in and try and break your leg and miss you, and you kind of go, "Is that your best shot? Is that it?" And okay, so you're a little guy and people think you to be a bit soft, but you can't come from East End of Glasgow and be completely soft, even if you, as I say, read serious books.
No, and I don't think players would even attempt it back then, would they, to dive? Not really. It would be frowned upon, wouldn't it?
Hammered. Your own team would sometimes have had a dig at you. It was coming into the game, and certainly, you know, different influences from different countries changed the game. And I knew one or two that would throw themselves to the ground, but but the referees would just laugh at you, and just say, "Get up," and again, you just. And once it's classic just now. I mean, if we watch a game, I can tell you after 10 minutes probably even 5 minutes, what it's going to be like. Because some referees now, if somebody dives in the first minute and he just goes, "Get up," they don't dive anymore. Just go on with the game. The referees can change this in a millisecond. See if someone dives and goes to down easily or deliberately dives. I mean, I was watching a game before, half an hour before talking to you, and a player held his face. And I showed you in the replay that the guy's boot never came within a foot of his face. That's what you should use VAR for. Book him. Just book him for cheating.
It would stop it, yeah.
Stop it like that. Just like that. And it's beyond... No, they will do it eventually. They will figure it out eventually, right? But there's many things in football that over the years I've sort of suggested and thought about and thinking, they'll get there. And it takes them 20 years. And they'll get there with that as well, because it spoils a large part of a lot of the games now. The games that's too stop-start, people are diving and rolling about. Whereas all it takes is a referee right at the start to say, "Do it if you like, but I'll book you." And they
Yeah.
won't do it.
And as we're talking about the differences between then and now, and you were saying about how you were getting kicked lumps out of you, I think one of George Best's favourite goals was where he scored against Chelsea and Chopper Harris chopped him down. That was one of his favourites.
Or tried to. Yeah. I've actually got... I've got a great bit of video. People say to me, "Is it harder, the game harder now than it was then?" And I've got a piece of video of later in my career, and I'm playing against a team called... I'm playing for Tranmere right at the end of my career, and there's a tackle that the guy would not just be sent off, but he'd probably be in prison for, right? Okay, these days. And you just think, you can't get away with it, and it's a kind of good thing. But on the other hand, there needs to be contact because it's natural. Within the game, it's played at that speed. So it's never ever a complaint. It was never a complaint for me at the time. You just take it. It was part of the game. You live in the world that you're living in at that time. And we lived in the game that we lived in at that time. So yes, it was different. But was it better or worse? It was just different.
Yeah. And do you have any funny stories from your time at Chelsea?
I've got 2 books worth which I've written about the madness of it, and it's hard to get it down to how many of them. Just the first one that comes to my mind, and it's not a big name. A guy called John McNaught, and he come down from Scotland, and he looked as rough can be. Now John is no longer with us, but he looked as if he'd been dragged out of a pub in the East End of Glasgow the night before, and he came down to join us. The reason he looked like that is because he'd been dragged out of a pub the night before and brought down. That's exactly the story. And he came up to me the first day and he went, "Hello." I'll not do the full accent because you wouldn't understand. He said, "Hello, wee man, great to see you again." And I went, "Have we met?" And he went, "Yeah, it's me, John." I'm sorry, my accent had calmed down a wee bit by then. And I'm going, "No, I'm not quite catching you." He goes, "It's me, Big John Nugget McNaught." And then just that moment of realisation of, I knew this kid when he was 10, and he was a nutter then. And he was the last person in the world I'd ever thought would get to the top level of English football. And here he was signing for Chelsea 3 or 4 years after I'd signed for them. Anyway, he was never going to last for a variety of reasons. But his first ever game was playing against QPR. And it was at Stamford Bridge. And it was a freezing cold January day. And in those days, it was rock hard, but we still played on the ice. And it was awful, so cold, about -5. And as we were walking out, the assistant manager said to the lads, wait for this. "Do you want a wee nip of whiskey before you go out to warm you up?" And I'm going, "Oh, for God's sake, the unprofessionalism." And all the lads are saying, no. And Big John, the bold John McNaught went, "Oh, I'll have one." He takes the bottle, starts glugging. This is on his debut for Chelsea. And he's standing behind me, and I've grabbed him, like, "Big man Nugget, don't do that. We're Scottish, we come down here and we show them how professional we are. You're having a whiskey before your bleeding debut." "Yeah, sorry, wee man." And I turned around to walk away, and he got the bottle again and had another big slug, glug. And I thought, he's no chance. And if you look up the scoreline, after 30 minutes, the score was Chelsea 2, QPR 0. Scorer McNaught 20, McNaught 24. He'd scored 2 goals.
So that whiskey helped.
That whiskey must have done the trick.
Right,
There
great
are a
story.
million stories.
All available in your books.
Yeah, and I do a lot of talks as well around the country now.
Right.
It's kind of like a stand-up. Because if you go, they have a career. Chelsea was 5 years, but 5 years at Everton, then 5 more years after that, and it was Scottish internationals. Then,
And sorry, Pat, we're running out of time. We've got 5 minutes. Can I just ask you 2 quick questions?
go for it. Anything?
What do you think was your best goal for Chelsea? Off the top of your head.
Look, the first one that comes to mind was Coventry away. We were wearing all red. Ball came down to me from a height, and I've done a volley from about 20 yards with a bit of spin and a bit of loop, and it's a cracker. So I think you can get it online, but that's certainly one of my favourites.
And is there anything from your career that you regretted?
I think that's an illness, regretting things. I don't think it's good.
Doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Doesn't do you any good. If something goes wrong, learn from it. That's where you learn. And I always thought that. So no, there was nothing. I mean, I've missed penalties. I've missed good chances. I've done lots of things. But in actual fact, they all make you who you are. So regrets.
Part of life.
Yeah, it's not. But if I'd done anything really viciously wrong that had a terrible, dreadful effect on other people, I would put my hand up. I don't think there's any of that.
And what do you think of the current crop of Chelsea players?
It's interesting. I mean, obviously, Cole Palmer is somebody I love watching. I would love him to get his sparkle back to what it was. Esteval obviously excites me massively. I love Reece James as a player. He's a fabulous, fabulous player to watch, and the fact he's come back from the injury he's had is incredible. I'm so delighted after I worked for many years for Chelsea TV, don't anymore, but worked for many years. And when Cucurella, people have forgotten now, when he first came in, he was getting absolute dog's abuse, and I'm
He
standing
was.
there going, and I'm standing there telling everybody, you are all wrong, right? You're just all wrong. He's brilliant, right? And they were giving it, and honestly, the stick I was getting at the time. So Cucurella is a brilliant player, and if he could maybe sort that inner ear problem that he's got, he'll be okay.
It's funny how with some players they're like that. I think Casado was like that as well at Chelsea to begin with. He wasn't fantastic, but now both of them are first names on the
Yeah,
team sheet, really.
yeah, I think he was fantastic at the start. I think. Look, the job I do, I'm a co-com pundit stroke analyst, right? And I watch players, and sometimes it isn't the fans that do it. It's sometimes other pundits say something, and it catches on. I remember was it Gary Neville who called David Luiz a PlayStation player, and I'm going, yeah.
He
We
said a lot
also have,
about against Chelsea, hasn't he?
yeah. Well, I don't know if he's getting it, but he was just bang wrong. And I watched them every week because I was covering Chelsea at the time. And David Lee's probably the best centre back in the league at the time.
Oh yeah,
Certainly in the
it's
top
great.
two. He was unbelievable. Yet all they ever talked about was the 2 or 3 mistakes because he was playing football 10 years ahead of his time. Oh God, honestly, so that sort of stuff drove me mad. But anyway, I'm happy for Cucurella. João Pedro's a pretty special player. He really is a special player. He's got a lot to give. So a lot of time for him as well.
And who's your favourite player to play for Chelsea ever? That's a very hard question.
I thought you were going to ask me. I'm going to give you a slightly different answer. I tried to talk people around the club into buying a player about 5 years ago. They
Go on.
just wouldn't listen. Annoyingly, talking to you today, his name's Kvaratskhelia. And just I wasn't listened by anyone. And I tried to get him over to somebody else. And I remember I did the same with Van Dijk. I tried to get him first to Chelsea, then to my friend who was manager at Manchester United at the time, and they wouldn't touch him at Celtic. But favourite players ever at Chelsea?
It's tough.
It's not going to be Zola or Hazard. It's not going to be them. And it kind of should be. But it's Frank. It's Frank Lampard. Just because of the person he was and what he did. And what he did from not always looking exceptional, but in actual fact he was all the time. So actually maybe Frank.
Our record goal scorer, but also a very nice human being as well, isn't he? If you ever meet Frank.
Well, and by the way, in Zola, you kind of meet a nicer person in the world. I would agree with you. I'm sure you'd agree with that. But Frank, no, that's Frank for you.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, and this will upset Chelsea fans, so cut it if you like. I really like Declan Rice. In a similar way, he's not as good a player as Frank was and won't score the goals. But see that honesty? That is, and this is coming from a Scotsman. People like Frank and Declan and one or two others, they show me what is the best thing, or the best of Englishness.
Great.
So,
Well, thanks a lot for joining us, Pat. It's been lovely to speak to you, and thanks for everything you did for Chelsea.
It was my pleasure.